Yeah, actually, I was actually an assistant to the director of adult institutions, so I was over at central office. But on the day that they were getting ready to start the work over here, and the contractor came in, I got a call from the warden, and he said, "Would you come over to MSP?" He said, "I've got something that you'll be interested in." So I came over, and the contractor had started digging, and that's when they started uncovering the buried cells. And of course, the reason I should have given you the parameters of why it happened to begin with is that we were under a court order when we had the capital punishment unit over here, that they had to move to Potosi. They didn't move to Potosi until '89. So back in 1985, when the capital punishment unit was here, they were under a court order to put in an exercise yard here, and they were under a real stringent time frame. And so the contractor started digging and hit something that he didn't like, as far as it being very hard, and didn't move very easily, and that's when they uncovered the buried cells. And so the interesting thing is that I came over, brought my camera, 35mm camera, took photographs. Even some of the numbers were visible above the doors. Number 46 was one I remember, 46 or 47. And so we had the staff, we let the staff from over here in the administration building at the time, all the clerical staff and everybody, we let them come down and take a look at the cells. And so, that just lasted for a couple of days. And then, of course, they had to go back, and the construction continued. So we know that there's cells over on the other side too, but they didn't uncover those. So that's why the buried cells are here. And so they said, well, what are you going to do with them? And they basically decided, the engineering staff said, well, we're just going to cover them back over. And so they remained covered back over. So I knew some people said that they had torn them out, but I knew they hadn't been torn out. I knew they were still here. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and do they have an estimate of when these were built?
We think they were built in the 1840s.
Okay.
And this is a very difficult institution in some ways to figure out, because just here, about 5 or 6 years ago, a lady gave me some photographs that I had never ever seen before, and I had all kinds of photographs. And it shows a lot of buildings in here that were 3- and 4-story buildings, and I never even knew that those buildings had ever existed. But I do know that in some of the other buildings, right after this building opened, Housing Unit 3 over here, old B&C Hall, right after it opened, I've got a good photograph, and it's before the red brick building over here was built, and the offenders were marching from over there and then going in the entrance of this building rather than from the other side. And so you see absolutely nothing here. It's just flat ground. So, it's interesting that they just covered it up. And I always wondered, and I think a lot of other staff did too, when we came to work here, why was the mound here? And the mound was really visible down at that end. And so that kind of answers the question. And people sometimes say, well, why would they have left this? Well, obviously it was a multiple story building, probably 2 or 3 stories. And what they did was they didn't have jackhammers and everything like we do now. All that was done with the old sledgehammer and pick and that type of thing. So they simply tore them down to a level where they thought they could manage it, and then they just covered everything else up. So that's why we're fortunate enough that they're still here for us to include on the tours now.